Hello, everyone. You're listening to Alternative Revelations with Linda Emanuel. And this is podcast number 106. And before I get started, I have to say this disclaimer that I am not a doctor, nor am I a medical practitioner. Therefore, I cannot give medical advice. And these podcasts are for informational purposes only. And also, whatever's in this podcast, if it resonates with you, so be it. If not, just discard it. And today I'm going to talk about two different subjects. At the end of the podcast, I'm going to tell you how you can communicate with the other side safely. And I'm going to teach you how to do this, how I do it. And this podcast is really about the difference between mycoplasma and viruses. And there's been a lot of false information on the internet about what a virus is, that viruses are part of your body and that they don't exist. Well, I want to know is why the government has invested so much money into developing viruses. And of course, viruses are different than mycoplasma. Actually, Dr. A. Truott came out with the truth, and I verified it with Creator. A virus is actually a spore or a seed of fungus. And there's many kinds of fungus. There's mushrooms and there's mold and there's fungus in the same family. But we're going to talk about viruses. And viruses, again, are spores of fungus. So this is the difference. Mycoplasma is a living organism. Viruses are not living, and this came directly from source. And the reason this is the virus is either a DNA genetic material or RNA genetic material, and it totally needs a host to take over that host, and that host cell actually becomes a fungus. And viruses cannot be spread through the air, dry air. They have to be, they're passed on through some kind of moisture. Think about it when you get athlete's foot. Usually you get it around a swimming pool or in a locker room where there is moisture on the floor. Also, toenail fungus, that's another fungus. And it's all spread. Their spores are viruses. It doesn't come out with that in Wikipedia, but I verified with Creator that viruses are actually seeds or spores of fungus. And funguses has a purpose. It helps break the body down when you're dead. And there is difference between mycoplasma and viruses. Many diseases in medieval times were caused by bacterial. Of course, smallpox is a virus. Horrible Zika virus is a virus, and Ebola is a virus. Now, what viruses do is this. They have receptors on their, they're either encoded with a lipid or a protein coating. And really Spirit has told me there is no way to kill a virus unless you have antiviral medicine, and I'll go into that later. Your immune system has to deal with it. But how viruses attack is they have receptors on the outer part of their outer wall, and they have to match receptors on host cells. So that is why viruses are specific to different specific parts of your body. Some viruses have receptors that only attack the lungs. For instance, the athlete's foot, they attack the cells in your feet, between your toes, whatever. So that is how a virus, it's specific to different parts of your body. It's not. It just doesn't. It doesn't randomly attack anywhere. And if animals have the same receptors on their cells, then yes, that virus can attack an animal. Now there are viruses that specifically target plants, but what I've been led to believe is that viruses cannot enter the cell wall of a plant because they're made of cellulose or really strong material. And usually the only way a virus can enter a plant is if the outer plant surface has been damaged, and then a virus can enter. So getting back to a virus, the virus gets into the cell. It takes that cell over, and the cell actually becomes a fungus, or acts like a fungus, and it starts replicating little spores, and usually the cell ruptures, or they call that lysis. It explodes, and the spores are released into the bloodstream to enter other cells of like that that it specifically targets. Now, mycoplasma is anaerobic. It is also the genetic material of a bacteria, but it is very much alive. It lays dormant in your body until activated by either trauma, change in oxygen level, or your immune system is compromised. Then it can awaken, and it attacks. Specifically, it can attack anywhere in the body, where a virus is more specific to what receptor it can get into. Now, I also had a really interesting podcast about fusion inhibitors, how the elite will protect themselves if there is a epidemic, a real epidemic. It's a drug called fusion inhibitors, and what it does is it blocks the receptors from the virus or the mycoplasma entering a host cell. It was a very interesting podcast, why Typhoid Mary was a carrier of typhoid and she didn't get it. And what happens is this, and I did this in another podcast and I can't remember the number of it, but if your parents both have the genetic mutation where they don't have receptors on their outer cells of their cells, then the virus or the mycoplasma cannot fuse and enter the cell. So the cell has no way to infect a person. So both parents have to pass down this genetic mutation to their offspring. If one parent has it, the offspring will still have receptors on their cells. And that's why Typhoid Mary never got sick. And several years ago, I was led to believe that berberine or some alkaloids kill a virus, and I just got corrected. Creators telling me that the only way you can kill a virus is by your immune system, and I asked Creator if heat, like the biomat, would kill it, and Creator, sometimes I communicate with my guides or people that are souls that are around me to help me what I'm doing. We all change guides through our lives depending on what we're doing. So I'm also going to talk about retroviruses. A retrovirus is actually a mycoplasma with a virus inserted into it, which has been genetically modified, usually in a bioweapon lab. And two retroviruses that you might have heard of are hepatitis B and HIV/AIDS. Those are both retroviruses. They're not true viruses. They have what you call a tiger in their tank. When the mycoplasma has virus inserted, the genetic material inserted into the mycoplasma, it wreaks more havoc. It targets specific cells, and like the AIDS virus or the AIDS mycoplasma, it attacks leukocytes. It attacks the immune system itself. And by the way, hepatitis B was invented in a lab. So to sum it up, viruses are passed from people to people through some kind of body fluid. They can't be transmitted in the dry air. They have to be some kind of body fluid or some kind of moisture, like droplets from somebody sneezing, and then they can enter the body. And that, I think, ends the part about the viruses. Again, mycoplasma is alive. A virus is like a seed of a plant. It's dead until it gets into a host cell, and then it takes over that cell, hijacks that cell, and that cell becomes actually the cell becomes a fungus, and then starts replicating, and it kills that cell, and the cell explodes, and then the spores spill out into the bloodstream. And viruses can be either linear shaped, circular shaped, or segmented. They can also be RNA specific or DNA specific. So in summary, viruses are real. They're not just living in your body as part of your body. They're as small as a mycoplasma. Mycoplasma is the genetic material of a bacteria encased in a cell membrane. Viruses they're the genetic material of a fungus. And they can be coated in either protein, or lipid. So now maybe I'm at the part where you've been waiting for, how to communicate, how I communicate with the other side. And I got woke up about 1999. I became what I guess what you call spiritual, metaphysical. I'd been searching for the truth my whole life. I didn't buy into the religion. I'm not saying I don't believe in God. I never was atheist, but I gave up on the Christian religion with the hell thing and the damnation and, just a bunch of hypocrites. Well, I met a woman by the name of Judy Goodman, who I never really got to talk to personally, and she just opened a whole new world to me. And I just been studying it. I overstudied, and I knew each and every one of us will have a spiritual awakening in our own time whenever we're ready. It's when you're ready, God will wake you up. And it is the most comforting feeling to know that there is no hell, that our soul lives on. The body dies, but we live on. We go back to the other dimensions. That's what I believe. And I believe in reincarnation. I don't believe that we come back as a bug or a horse. I believe that we have many, many lives, thousands of lives. And in spirit, this is kind of like a little bit of spiritual teaching. In spirit, we don't have to incarnate into a body. We can stay in spirit. We're just total energy. We have no physical body. So Judy Goodman told us, I believe she told us this, that if you have an addiction to alcohol or tobacco or drugs, when you go back to spirit, when you die, you will still have those feelings of addiction, but you will have no body to relieve yourself of the addiction. So it's all about mind when you're in spirit. It's all energy and consciousness. And, we come down in soul groups, soul families, and each and every one of us, we're all connected. We're all part of the God energy. We're all one. Judy Goodman told us she could see the other side. If you want to check her out, her website is www.judygoodman.com, just exactly like it sounds, judygoodman.com. She's a great spiritual teacher. She can see the other side. She can communicate with the other side. If you're interested in learning about Judy Goodman or my experience with her, you can read The Messenger or listen to the very first podcast, How I Got Spiritually Awoken. But I've been working on this for like the last 20 years, and I've been to Sedona many times when the great spiritual people were still alive and living in Sedona, and I learned so many things, how to channel, how to just communicate with the other side. And if you want to communicate with the other side, and you got to really be careful of this, because you could get a demon intercepting and giving you information. So what you do, if you're interested in learning step by step, and maybe you do this already, I just went to Home Depot and bought those pull chains on a ceiling fan. My first pendulum was a $2.50 fake crystal knob that you hang from a ceiling fan. And the first thing you do is you center yourself. And the first thing you do is ask you hold the pendulum, don't move it in your hand. And this is what I do. And then ask for a yes. Usually a yes for me is sideways. A yes is forward and backward. No is sideways. I don't know is a circle. But then you can start asking questions, and this is the most important thing to do. The most important thing. When I went to Sedona and learned this, there's some kind of agreement in the spirit world where demons cannot lie. If you ask, you always have to ask before you start questioning. You have to ask, are you the Christ energy? Meaning of the light, creator. Now, a demon cannot say yes. They usually don't say no. They usually say I don't know or no. So then you're in trouble then, because then you might have to get some sage and burn it or do something. But you always got to ask that question, are you Christ energy? And usually what happens with me, I've been spiritual for like over 20 years now. And things come to my head. If I'm really quiet, I get messages. And what I do is I take my pendulum and I verify it. And if it's a very, very, very important message, I have a friend named Joanne who is even more, probably more experienced than I am. And I always get her to confirm it or see what she uses she uses a muscle test, which I'm not very proficient in. I don't trust the muscle test on myself. And she usually confirms it. And usually we're in agreement. And this is an interesting story. I was having problems with this demon. This demon just wouldn't leave me alone. I know it sounds weird. This demon was just interfering. I was burning sage and I just could not get rid of this demon that was like in my apartment building. And one day Joanne was over here and she's pretty intuitive. And she points up at this angel statue I got from Ashley Home Furniture. It's this angel statue on top of my TV cabinet. And she says, the demon's is resident in that angel. And sure enough, it was. So I took this beautiful angel statue, it's about a foot tall, and I took it and I threw it in the dumpster. And I never had problems with demons again. That was a demon that was somehow cursed into that angel. I know this sounds really weird. So you always have to ask, are you the Christ energy? And get a pendulum and just start practicing. And always center yourself and always, 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 can't emphasize this enough, always ask, are you the Christ energy? And demons cannot lie. And they say no. And that's how I actually get messages from Creator. The thoughts come to me. I hear like my own voice. And then I just confirm it with my pendulum. That's what I do. So you really can't invade anybody's privacy. You can't ask questions about somebody else, only really about yourself. And also I want to add this. You can never ask Spirit if you should do something. Like for instance, you can't say, should I do this? Because it's all free choice down here, and Spirit won't answer that. But if you say it like this, would it be in my best interest to do this? Or would it be a wise thing to do this? Then they'll answer yes or no. That's how you get around asking whether you should do something, because Spirit will never tell you what to do. And also I suggest that you listen to my manifesting podcast, how to manifest, how to use energy to get whatever your heart's desired. And you have to be careful what you wish for. So this is going to conclude this podcast about the difference between a virus and mycoplasma. Yes, viruses are very real, but they can't be spread through dry air. They have to be in some kind of a fluid or a body fluid. And viruses are actually seeds of fungus. And the only thing that can kill a virus is your immune system, or maybe some kind of real strong, potent drug that the pharmaceutical industry has created. But I'm suspecting that if it kills the virus, it's also going to kill other cells around it. So in conclusion, just keep seeking the truth. And if this all resonated with you, so be it. If not, just disregard it. But we all have the same abilities to connect to Creator. Just go out and get a $2.50 chain pull for a fan and start practicing. You first ask, give me a yes. And hold the pendulum perfectly still. Don't move it. And then it'll give you a yes. And then ask for a no. And then I don't know is usually a circle. It'll circle. It's really weird how it can make a circle all by itself. So then always, before you have questions, always ask, are you the Christ energy? And demons cannot lie. And if you're having problems with demons, I just suggest you can burn sage. You can go to a spiritual store and get some sage and burn it. That usually clears them out. Or you can get curry and boil curry. I'm fortunate now that the demon has left. It went in the dumpster and it's gone. It was really weird. Joanne pointed that out. She immediately pointed it out and said, "There's a demon in that angel," and I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" So we got rid of that sucker. So just keep seeking the truth. Seek your truth, and be aware, prepare, and be safe. And until next time, good night and God bless.